I'm the gig geezer in Wood Lane. And when I'm out there doing my gig hustle, I'm out there to make some money. I want to help you maximize your gig hustle. The reason why I'm sharing this information is that it is important, in my opinion, that you must know your market. Not always so much as the habits of people, where all the orders are if you're doing food delivery, but you need to know your market geographically in order to work multiple apps, or even if it's a single app. You need to know your market. It's that simple. Because that is the difference between you getting to your next order in a very timely and efficient manner, or you receiving that friendly, well-written email from DoorDash or Uber Eats, most likely, or even Grubhub, in which they say that you've engaged or you have shown a tendency or a habit of engaging in fraudulent activity, which means you've taken too long to deliver your order. Being in South Carolina, specifically Columbia, it is not uncommon to find yourself at a remote place within the greater metropolitan area. It is highly conceivable that you may be driving in the sticks just 5 minutes beyond a very populated area. Now, I've traversed a lot of dirt roads, a lot of gravel paths, a lot of pothole laced dirt and gravel paths, and whatever seemed to be the entryway into another frontier. And that is while delivering parcels, packages, and food in this gig economy hustle. So far, I've been very fortunate not to have been in a situation where I've had to ask for help or call for roadside assistance to be pulled out of a ditch, or where I've misjudged my distance in a going over or in a very deep pothole that may have been filled up after a very heavy rainstorm. In my many deliveries, and we're talking thousands of them, I've also been able to speak of the experience of having arrived on a person's property and be greeted by portions of Noah's Ark. And we're talking about sheep, goat, and dogs, of course, but also chickens and roosters milling about doing their thing, and some of the ugliest pigs you've ever seen doing their thing. I've also mistaken at nighttime on some people's properties what I thought were dogs, only to be Bambi in their front yards. And speaking of Bambi, Bambi and I do not get along. Bambi and I do not have a good history in the years that I've been in the gig economy. Now, what I mean by that, first time, November 2018. I am traveling across a bridge in the middle lane. This bridge takes you into downtown Columbia. Next thing I know, I did not have time enough to react to Bambi darting out and then ricocheting off of my vehicle as I'm traveling 45 miles an hour. The second time, we're talking April 2020. I'm in the northwest sector of Columbia. I'm going up this road, a very highly traveled paved road. I look off to the distance to my right. I see Bambi sprinting through this tree-lined area. And once I picked up that was Bambi, I began slowing down, hoping that I would not miss Bambi as he sprints across the vehicle. Well, Bambi didn't sprint across. Bambi somehow decides to veer left and then ricochet very hard off of my vehicle. Now, we're talking Bambi, similar damage, similar points of impact, same results, vehicle total. Now, it is also my experience, particularly even as we speak of in 2021, September that is, that in some of the more outlying areas of my market, you still may lose phone reception. Yeah, so we're talking about some pretty far out places there. Now, in this video that you're seeing here, this is an example of me driving, taking a path off of a main road or a paved road, taking this path about 3/4 of a mile to 1.25 miles, all the way to someone's property just to deliver parcels. Now that was an experience. I was driving at that time my Maxima, which was about a year before Bambi had taken it out, and this was located in the farthest portion of northwest Richland County. And Richland County, for whatever it's worth, in the Columbia market, is where most of Columbia is contained. Also in my market, the other counties are Kershaw County and Lexington County. Now, from that specific place, on a couple of occasions, I've also delivered about 10 minutes away to a person's property or a couple of people's property, in which once I turned off of the dirt road, the main paved road, I had to go down 3 dirt paths, turning left each time. And then when I reached the gate, go down this narrow path that was wide enough for one vehicle, driving along the side of a hill, it seemed, where it gave you the impression that you were some frontiersman from another time and era, or that you were Kit Carson, or that you were on a horse in the Pony Express days. Now, the thing about all this is that most times, it's been my experience, once you've arrived at that person's property, they seem to be genuinely surprised that you even made it. Not so much as, and also they seem to be genuinely relieved that you made it. Not so much as with your food, but the fact that you made it without even calling them or texting them for directions. But, hey, some of us are able to do that and some of us aren't. But this is the reason for this segment of the Gig Geezer. Here's another example. Earlier this month, I had to travel off of another paved road, a main road in this community. And it is not uncommon in the Columbia greater metropolitan market that you may encounter addresses that are not visible even in the daytime, but also you may encounter addresses that may not be in order. It is not uncommon that in some cases that you'll go down a road where normally it's even on one side, odd on the other side, but you may have even and odds on the same side, or again, they're not in order, in which, usually it's the addresses are like 200, 202, 204, or 200, 204, 208, 212, something to that extent where you can quickly pick up a pattern. Well, in this particular case, it was none of that. None of that. The address wasn't visible, the addresses were not in order, and I'm going down a dirt path. Well, in this particular example, once I realized that I had gone too far, hey, guess what? I had to circle back. And even then, that may not be enough. But in this particular case, I was very fortunate to find the address. And of course, as I turned off of the dirt path, I went down another gravel path to this address. And I was greeted by a very relieved and surprised customer with their food. Now, I want to digress a little bit here. Now, I'm old enough to talk of the days of finding my way around with the actual maps, atlases, and key maps. I ain't talking about orienteering with a compass, but I've done that too as well. But as a poor, struggling college student back home in Houston, in which I drove as a cab driver, I will tell you this: the key map was the most important thing that a cab driver could have in his or her possession. Now, back in the day, at least in Houston, and I can say this, that it's been corroborated in my interactions with other former cab drivers who are now in the gig economy from their respective markets, that, hey, before you took your first fare, you, as a part of your orientation process, you had to show that you had a general knowledge of your market. And that meant being quizzed on various addresses in which you had to tell them, okay, they give you an address, you had to tell them what was this public place. Then we were taught how to use the key map. Now, as a cab driver back then, this is when cab rides were dispatched by radio and not by over your phone. Your ability to use that key map was often the difference between you being able to drive there and get that fare, or as what we used to call being scooped, which meant another driver stole your ride, which meant for a bad day and you possibly going broke that day. Now, again, working a key map, an actual paper map or an atlas, was before the days of MapQuest. And as what we know now, GPS, cellular phones with maps on them, as we know as with Google, Waze, and any of the other modern conveniences of technology that we know now in 2021. Now, I will say this, after having completed thousands of deliveries and thousands of rides and rideshare, that you can't always depend on these apps for getting you to your location. It has been my experience that these apps can lead you to a dead end or a body of water. And in those cases, we've sent each other in our little Facebook groups and all, pictures of where we see this body of water in front of us, and all we do is just laugh at it. But hey, this is possible. Now, also, if it's what is more common too is that if the address that you have to, or your destination that you have to reach is in a newly installed subdivision, this is where the following things may come to you that I'm about to share may be of greater use to you. It's been my experience when I used to do Amazon Flex. If Amazon Flex told you an address and you're dealing with a newly installed subdivision, it is highly conceivable that location on the app could be 5 to 6 miles away. And then on apps like Uber and Lyft and even DoorDash, what will happen is you may not be 5-6 miles away in most cases, but all it will do is put you in the general vicinity of where you need to be. Then it's up to you to either contact the customer by phone or by text to get actual specific directions where they kind of lead you in, or you can do as what I do 99% of the time. And that is, I have on my phone Google Map. I also have Waze, but I also have another version of Google Map. It's the internet version. So there's two versions of the Google Map. There is the GPS version, but then there's also the internet version. The internet version is used when the GPS somehow does not coordinates itself to where it shows you where you need to be. But the internet is the backup to that, in which it will actually coordinate where you and show you where the actual location is. But what if you still can't locate the address on those apps? What I learned during my Amazon Flex days, there's what you call your county tax maps. These are GPS backed or GPS platforms that shows you if there's any property or parcel. It will show you exactly where it is. Now, the reason for that is for tax purposes. That's why it's called a tax map. Now, the county tax maps is probably my most valuable and cherished access medium that I have, because there's a county tax map for Richland County, Lexington County, and Kershaw County. And I've had to use the county tax map in order to specifically locate that property when the other sources would not. So that's one that you may also want to keep on your phone as well. Keeping a link to the county tax maps, which also use the GPS-based platforms. Now, while I'm at this, if you're already doing it, just take it as I'm preaching to the choir, and you can just nod amen. Or if you haven't done this, but yet I know that UPS and Federal Express people do as a practice, what they do is that they keep a running list of codes, access codes for the gates. This is very, very invaluable and very time-saving, and also can keep you from being deactivated. Now, the reason for this is that I don't think people think of this when they expect parcels and packages and food to be delivered to them. They may not provide that access code. They just may not. But also what's frustrating is that you get to the gate or to the door and you need to get in, and you try to contact them by phone or by text, and they don't answer. And especially at nighttime, you're in a line at the gate, and that person is waiting for somebody to, after they've tried calling them, to give them the code or to key them in and all. That may also be you, and it's also been me. And then what you're hoping for is that somebody will come along and that you can piggyback behind them. But in most cases, I suggest keeping you a running list of passcodes will be a day saver in most cases. I also keep, now, how do I keep it? I don't keep a notebook, but what I do is I keep a running email that I create as a draft, and I add these codes with the addresses. The other thing is that I'll take a screenshot of the address. Again, this is important while working multiple apps and or when you're trying to stack orders from multiple apps. And it may also be beneficial when you're working single apps as well. But the bottom line is that you need to know your market in order to pull any and all of this off. Until next time, I'm Inwood Lane, and you've been watching another segment of The Gig Geezer. Thank you for checking out this segment of The Gig Geezer. Hopefully the content I've provided in this segment will be of help in your gig hustle. Hey, click that subscribe button so that you can receive notifications of future Gig Geezer segments. Also, hit that like button. And if you have any questions or you'd like to pass useful information on to the Gig Geezer, you can email me at giggeezer3.5@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Inwood Lane, and may your hustle continue.